Have you noticed how your priorities begin to shift as you get older? Things that once felt so important, like having a wide circle of friends, may not hold the same weight anymore. And here's something that might surprise you: after 70, you might not actually need friends the way you once did. That may sound unexpected at first, but if you take a closer look, it starts to make perfect sense. You've spent your life nurturing relationships, showing up for others, making time even when it wasn't easy. But now this chapter of life is different, and it should beno is the time to focus on what truly brings you peace, joy, and purpose. Sometimes that means stepping back from friendships that no longer add value to your life. And no, this isn't about feeling lonely or becoming isolated. It's about something far more powerful. It's about freedom. The freedom to choose how you spend your time, the freedom to be at peace with solitude, the freedom to wake up in the morning and not feel obligated to call, text, or catch up with anyone unless you genuinely want to. In this video, we're going to explore 6 honest and eye-opening reasons why friendships might lose their importance as you grow older. We'll talk about how your mindset shifts, how your emotional energy becomes more precious, and how your health and happiness can actually improve when you let go of social pressures that no longer serve you. Others, a kind of peace that comes with this stage of life. You've earned the right to live on your own terms without explanation and without guilt. And sometimes that means walking a quieter path, one that's filled with calm reflection, personal growth, and deeper self-understanding. So stick with us until the end. You may find that letting go of the pressure to maintain friendships isn't a loss at all. It might just be the beginning of something richer, more peaceful, and beautifully authentic. ***, you no longer need to prove yourself to anyone. One of the most powerful realizations that comes after turning 70 is this simple truth: you have outgrown the need for approval from others. In your earlier years, friendships often came with hidden expectations. Maybe it was about fitting into the right crowd, keeping up appearances, or trying to be liked by people who didn't really see the real you. Think back to your younger days, when friendships were formed through work, school, parenting groups, or social events. You probably felt pressure to stay connected, to be seen, to be accepted, and to be valued by how well you fit in. But now everything has changed. You've lived through decades of experience, faced ups and downs, built your life, made mistakes, and learned from them. And now you've earned something incredibly valuable: the right to stop seeking validation from anyone. You don't need to chase friendships for status, approval, or reputation anymore. The truth is, you are already enough exactly as you are. Let that sink in for a moment. Take Harold as an example. In his 70s, he looked back and realized that many of his so-called friends were actually just work buddies, people who connected with him because of what he did, not who he was. When he retired, those relationships disappeared almost overnight, and at first he felt the urge to keep those connections going, to reach out, to stay relevant. But then something shifted. Paused and asked himself, why am I trying so hard to hold on to relationships that were never built on true connection? And that question changed everything. Instead of chasing after old ties, Harold began to invest in himself. He picked up painting, something he loved in his youth. He spent quiet mornings walking in nature without feeling the need to check his phone or meet someone for coffee just to feel included. Began living life on his own terms, without explanation and without apology. And for the first time in years, he felt truly free. When you reach the point where you no longer feel the need to prove anything to anyone, something beautiful happens. Stop wasting energy on people who don't see your worth. You stop bending yourself to fit into spaces you've outgrown. You stop saying yes when your heart wants to say no. Instead, you begin to listen to yourself more deeply. You find peace in your own company. You give yourself permission to let go of friendships that were never really friendships in the first place. And you realize that real fulfillment doesn't come from being liked or admired. It comes from feeling content with who you are when no one else is watching. This is the kind of freedom that only comes with age and wisdom, and it's one of the greatest gifts of growing older. Peace becomes more valuable than socializing. As the years go by, something begins to shift deep within you. The noise of the world, the endless conversations, the constant need to stay in touch and make plans starts to feel different. It's not that you dislike people or that you've grown cold. It's that your soul starts to crave something else, something quieter, something deeper. You begin to appreciate peace in a way you may have never fully understood before. In your younger years, being busy was often seen as a sign of being happy or successful. The more people you knew, the more events you attended, the more alive you felt. But now things are different. Large gatherings, the dinner parties, the constant check-ins that once brought excitement now often bring fatigue. Even the friendships that once gave you energy may start to feel like obligations. You find yourself hesitating before answering a call or agreeing to a lunch because deep down you'd rather spend that time in silence and reflection, or doing something that truly feeds your spirit. Margaret, as an example, at 74, her calendar used to be packed: lunches with old friends, video chats with family, holiday plans with her neighbors. She was never without something to do or someone to talk to. But over time she began to notice a strange feeling after these gatherings. Instead of feeling uplifted, she felt drained. Instead of feeling connected, she felt depleted. Conversations became repetitive, and some friends only called to complain or vent. And Margaret realized something very important. She no longer looked forward to being around people just for the sake of it. So she made a change. She stopped saying yes out of guilt, stopped filling her schedule just to stay busy, started choosing stillness, quiet afternoons with her favorite tea, long walks with no destination, mornings spent with books she had always meant to read. And in that quiet, she found something she never expected: peace, kind of peace that calms your heart and clears your mind, kind of peace that doesn't need to be explained or defended. At this stage in life, you realize that peace is not just a preference, it is a necessity. You no longer need to fill every moment with activity or conversation just to feel valid or connected. You begin to enjoy your own company in ways you never did before. You start to see that solitude is not the same as loneliness. Solitude is a gift. It gives you space to think, to breathe, to feel. It allows you to reconnect with yourself in the most gentle and healing way. And once you begin to value that kind of peace more than social obligations, you open the door to a life that feels lighter, freer, and more honest. You start living not for others' expectations, but for your own inner calm. And that is something truly beautiful. Fewer friendships mean fewer disappointments. Of the hardest truths we learn as we grow older is that not every friendship is meant to last, and not every connection is as genuine as it once seemed. You've probably experienced this over the years: friends who slowly drifted away when life got hard, people who were there for the good times but disappeared when you needed them most, or friendships where you were always the one giving and never truly receiving. By the time you reach your 70s, you begin to see things more clearly. You realize that having fewer friendships doesn't just mean fewer obligations, it means fewer letdowns, fewer misunderstandings, and fewer moments of hurt when someone you cared about fails to show up for you. Think about William at 78. He noticed a pattern: was the one always reaching out, planning the catch-ups, remembering birthdays, making sure the connection stayed alive. And yet very few people did the same for him. At first he blamed himself, wondering if he had done something wrong, but with time he began to understand the truth. The relationships weren't mutual, and they never really were. So he let go of it with bitterness, but with acceptance. He stopped chasing people who wouldn't meet him halfway, and in doing so he made space for more peace, more clarity, and more honesty in his life. Letting go of the need to keep up with everyone means letting go of the disappointment when they don't keep up with you. You don't need to hold onto every relationship just to feel connected. Instead, you can focus on the ones that feel easy and natural, whether it's a trusted family member, a lifelong friend, or even just your connection with yourself. That is, and if you don't need a long list of friends to feel whole, you only need the right ones, or sometimes none at all. Your time becomes more precious as you get older. Something becomes incredibly clear: your time is no longer something to give away freely. In your younger years, time felt limitless. There was always another opportunity to meet up, to socialize, to maintain friendships, and stay in the loop. But now every moment matters in a new and powerful way. You begin to understand that not every relationship is worth the energy it takes to maintain it, and that awareness changes everything. Take Richard in his early 80s. He had always been a social butterfly, constantly surrounded by friends and always saying yes to every invitation. But slowly that lifestyle began to wear him down. Phone calls got longer, the conversations started to feel repetitive, and the social events that once brought him joy started to feel like obligations. So one afternoon, during another lunch filled with small talk and polite laughter, he paused and thought to himself, I don't want to spend my time this way Anymore that one thought opened a new door for him. He began saying no more often and saying yes only when it felt truly meaningful, and something surprising happened. He didn't feel lonely at all. Instead, he felt free to spend his precious time doing the things that mattered to him: reading, gardening, listening to music, sitting quietly with a cup of coffee, and no pressure to entertain or be entertained. When you stop giving your time to people or activities that drain you, you gain something priceless. You gain the chance to live life at your own pace, on your own terms, with no apologies. Time is no longer a resource to be spent on everyone else. It becomes a gift you give to yourself. True companionship comes from within. We're often told that being alone is something to avoid, that it means we're missing something, but that idea couldn't be further from the truth. One of the most important relationships you will ever have is the one you have with yourself, and the older you get, the more you begin to understand just how powerful that connection can be. 70 and beyond, you've spent a lifetime learning who you are, what matters to you, and how you handle the highs and lows of life. That self-knowledge becomes your anchor. Take Eleanor at 76. She used to believe she needed to stay socially active to feel happy. She filled her days with outings, conversations, and group gatherings, but despite all the noise, she often felt tired, disconnected, and strangely alone, even when surrounded by people. Eventually, she started to ask herself why, and the answer was simple. Many of her relationships were based on habit, not on real connection. So she stopped trying to keep up. She started spending more time with herself. She went on peaceful walks, wrote in her journal, listened to music, and read books that spoke to her soul. And slowly, she discovered something beautiful. Being alone didn't feel empty anymore. It felt complete. When you enjoy your own company, you don't need constant interaction to feel seen or valued. You attract better relationships naturally, because you are no longer reaching from a place of need. You are connecting from a place of peace. The more at home you feel within yourself, the more fulfilling your life becomes. Letting go makes space for a more fulfilling life. Perhaps one of the most freeing things you can do after 70 is to give yourself full permission to let go. Let go of friendships that no longer feel meaningful. Let go of the pressure to always be available. Let go of outdated expectations that no longer reflect who you are today. Letting go doesn't mean closing yourself off from the world. It means making space for what truly nourishes you, for what brings you joy and purpose and peace. Consider James. In his late 70s, he continued to stay socially active out of habit, not happiness. He filled his days with calls, visits, and events, but deep down something always felt off. One day he asked himself a simple but honest question: why am I doing this if it doesn't make me happy? And with that question, he gave himself permission to stop forcing connections that no longer fit. Turned inward, started focusing on his health, took more walks, spent time in nature, picked up hobbies he had long forgotten, and allowed himself to enjoy life on his own terms. And something unexpected happened. He felt lighter, more at peace, more himself than he had in years. Letting go isn't about giving up on people. It's about choosing what serves your spirit. And when you make that choice, life doesn't shrink, it expands. It becomes simpler, richer, more meaningful. You begin to live for your own joy, not for anyone else's approval. And that is the kind of life worth waking up to every single day. ***. So, final thoughts: if there's one message to take away, it's this: not needing friendships after 70 isn't about isolation. It's about freedom. It's about choosing peace, honoring your time, and living in a way that truly reflects who you are now. So ask yourself, which of these reasons resonated with you most? Have you already started letting go of friendships that no longer bring you joy? Or are you just beginning to consider what it means to prioritize yourself? We'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts in the comments. What did you learn today? And how will you apply it to your life moving forward? If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support allows us to keep creating content that informs and inspires. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.